With us now is former International Trade Minister, Mr. Stockwell Day, who comes to us from New York City. Sir, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Hi, Nima. Good to be with you.
Now, let's start with the U.S. land border reopening for Canadians for non-essential reasons. What have you been seeing around the U.S. land border so far?
Well, on the Canadian side, for sure, people very excited and somewhat the same in the U.S. I mean, just the thought you can travel, whether they want to do short-term, it's not just short-term shopping or longer-term holidays, but there's so many, people are not aware, so many athletic events between schools and cultural events. So I can tell you it's overall pretty close to elation that people can be traveling again across those land borders.
And we've been hearing a lot of criticism around the requirement for a negative PCR test to re-enter Canada. So we know the government is reviewing this PCR test requirement. What do you expect to happen with it?
I'm going to be optimistic on that one, Nima, and say that they will move away from that because so many of the countries around the world are satisfied with the rapid antigen test. The PCR test, of course, is more expensive. It takes more time to get results. So let's keep hoping and keep calling your MPs and inform them that this would be a very good thing. It's a bit of a financial burden to many of the families that are traveling back and forth to have to get that PCR.
All right, sir, about 3 minutes left here, but let's jump to this list here by Global Affairs Canada, a list of countries where Canadians are most likely to be murdered. So some very interesting information here. What are the main takeaways?
You know, I've long been pushing and advocating for that to be public, those lists. It doesn't have to have a denigrating effect on the actual countries themselves, because when you look at the situations regarding the murders, a portion of them at least, a not small portion, are usually related to criminal activity, but there's also other portions that are just innocent Canadians being murdered. So I think it's positive to release that. It gives a bit of a warning. It also puts pressure on the governments themselves in which these murders are reported to make them remember they're being watched and they should be doing everything they can to protect their visitors.
And we mentioned this list is the first of its kind. Why has this list not been available before?
I think it's been a general sensitivity about not wanting to upset some of your other countries and people that, especially on the government level, that you visit with. But I think the offset has to be, it's a positive form of pressure. And in the long run, I think it will be beneficial because it will make those other governments more responsive to the concerns they're hearing from Canada.
We know Cuba is one of the countries on that list. So can you fill our viewers in on what is happening in Cuba and how Canadians in the country could be affected?
Well, Canadians there should be cautious. There's advisory warnings out now. There is a general uprising in terms of people wanting more civil liberties. I'm a bit concerned, Nima, with on the 20th, it's been fairly well notified in the social media in Cuba that there's going to be a lot of, they want peaceful civil protests. So the government in Cuba has responded by saying that on the 18th and 19th of November, they're going to be doing a whole lot of, quote, military exercises. I personally, I don't like the sound of that. And I'm hoping that our government will send advanced signals of caution to the Cuban government to allow their citizens to have these peaceful protests. Probably not a great time for Canadians to be in Cuba over the next week or two, certainly.
Some very concerning information there, Mr. Day. Another thing, Ethiopia. So we know advocates for the Tigrayan community in Canada are asking for the government to step in and protect Tigrayan people in Ethiopia. What is happening there? About 45 seconds left here.
Well, they have reason for concern. The activity is from the north, and for some period of time now, UN supplies to the poverty-stricken areas in the north are not getting through at all. And you're talking about 8 million people or so in the north. They're literally starving. And some of them are on the march to the capital right now. And we don't like the sound of what the president, Ahmed, is saying. He's talking, a week ago, he's saying we need to stop the marchers. Now he's quoted as saying, I hope it's not true, but he's quoted as saying, let's bury them. And this is a very tense time in Ethiopia right now.